Hi everyone. I'm just trying to make sure that the rest of my channels are live. I know Facebook takes a little longer, so we're gonna be started in a while. So it looks like I will be live on Facebook in another 2 minutes. So hey everyone, by the time I'm live on all the three channels, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, how about we say hi and tell me where you are logging from? I'm excited. Today I'll be talking about creating culture for learning. And it's a really interesting topic and something that usually, is ignored or not, kind of like mm, not being realized that, what role it plays in, really achieving a good student learning, because that's a goal. That's a goal that our students should be learning. So say hi and let me know where you're logging from. I'm just making sure. All right, Facebook, another 1.5 minutes, so we'll wait. It's Saturday morning here. I know some of you might be heading to your work, and if it's a weekend, that's another thing. Um, but I really thought starting this live show early in the morning will be more refreshing to talk about, because usually when I was working as a teacher, weekends used to be, days when I'm reflecting on what went well, what did not, and what worked, what kind of extra planning I must be doing, or what should be changed. After reflecting, I feel like, okay, this didn't work, so maybe I should do something differently. Or talking specifically about, what kind of student needs what kind of additional resources, because it's more, gone are the days when, as a teacher, you stand in front of the class and you teach the whole class in the same way. But today it is not the way you could teach, because every child's need is different. You have to challenge the gifted kids, highly talented kids, and at the same time you also have to make sure that you are paying attention to the students who are struggling. Hey Viraj, thank you for joining in from Facebook. He's my student, my neighbor. He's a great chef now. So another 13 seconds before I'm live on Facebook. This live is not just about creating though I'm going to talk more specific about creating a culture for learning in the classroom, but I think this applies everywhere in general because learning is a never-ending process. We learn, like till date, I'm learning so many things. Like last live show, I used StreamYard. This time I'm using Restream. I'm more experimental, not just in the software, but in general, I experiment a lot in my personal life as well as professional life, whether it's strategies, techniques, anything. And I feel like, it's good that, the more you experiment, the more experience you get and, more learning you get to share. And so let's see how Restream goes this time. It allows three free channels. So I'm on a free uh, setup right now. So we will be beginning in a moment. Say hi and let me know where you're joining from. It's really essential we talk about culture of learning. And so we begin now. Hi everyone, this is Tulika Samuel, co-founder of Edoxa. But before that, I have been teacher. I started my career as a kinder teacher, which I never thought I would. And then I moved to elementary and then secondary, higher secondary. And eventually, after having experience of teaching almost all the classes, I thought of trying admin post. So I started working as headmistress, and after that, vice principal, and finally principal. After working as principal, before starting this consultancy, I was in US for 5 years, and I worked there as a junior high math teacher, and those 5 years were, were full of experiences because different country, different culture, different style, different techniques, different strategies. There was so much learning there, and I'm glad that I took that decision of moving abroad for 5 years because I don't think that I would have that, global exposure, the perspective that we see in other countries. And today the world is going global, right? There's no more thing that, something that is restricted to one country. This platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, people are connecting, networking, and that's the beauty about this. And then this pandemic gave us more opportunities to be globalized. So talking a little bit about Edoxa. Edoxa is an education consultancy. A lot of times I get called, do you work on admissions, getting admission abroad, or getting student enrollment in our school? And so I want to talk more a little bit about what Edoxa is all about. So after this, 16 to 17 years of experience in education line, we wanted to, bring that change. To be honest, I have worked here and US, and I think that there is so much potential in India as well. That whatever learning experiences we have from here as well as US, we want to bring it out to other schools, and that was the motto when we started with Edoxa. So, and that's why the name Edoxa came into existence. Doxa is a Greek word which means a strong faith, a strong belief, and ed is education. So we wanted, we had a strong belief that we can bring that change here by, motivating every other, sharing our experiences. So this consultancy, we provide affiliation guidance. We do a lot of trainings and workshops for the teachers, staff, and principal. Recently, Adoxa came up with a teaching learning observation framework that helps schools to evaluate teachers, and the framework is completely growth based. So the approach is growth. So it's not about judging the teachers, it's about helping the teachers. Because if we help teachers, eventually the students that require help. So Edoxa is all about helping schools setting up or establishing or turnkey project. We do everything. And so that's all about Edoxa. And so moving on to what we are here today, I'm here to talk about culture for learning. So while I'm talking, I also, would be happy to address any questions that you may have. So feel free to put them out in the comments section, and during the breaks, I will definitely be addressing them. So what is culture for learning? When we talk about culture, if we forget about the education and everything, we India is full of diverse culture. We have so many different, from state to state the culture is different, the language is different. So same happens in the classroom, because we have say 25 to 30 or even more than that students in a classroom. Each student is coming from a different background, each student has a different culture, and then bringing them into one classroom needs a lot of adjustment. We as an educator could not expect them to switch from their own culture to the classroom culture. And that's why it's really essential that we create that environment where they feel safe, where they feel that they want to learn or they want to come to your class. So basically culture for learning refers to the atmosphere of the classroom, the tone of your classroom, the importance that you give to students. A lot of time, I have seen, I've experienced where unintentionally, when you go into the classroom, the teacher wants to address everyone's need, but unintentionally the tension or focus is most of the time is towards high achiever. When you're asking question, those selected will be the one raising hand because they are excited to answer, they know it. But then those bubble students are not the only targets. So it's really essential that when you are taking feedback or assessing for learning, you have a standard procedure or some procedure where every child gets opportunity to respond. Now it is not possible that you ask 25 questions to 25 students, because that's going to take you about 20 minutes of the class. But there are some ways that you can do that. And when you do that, each child feels cared about. They feel to come to your classroom because they know you will be taking care of their learning, whether they are high achievers or they are low achievers, whether they are struggling or they are gifted. So basically, culture for learning describes the norms that govern your interaction. Most of the time, the students who are a little shy don't feel like answering or even trying. And if you ignore them, guess what? They are fine with that, right? Because they are like, all right, this class doesn't ask me questions, so I'm fine here. But the motto is to bring their, to remove their shyness and bring their hidden talent outside, to make them realize that their voice matters, that their responses matters, can add experience, right? So basically, when we talk about culture for learning, it also includes the look of your classroom. Just the way when any guest arrives your home, based on the living room, they can easily know what kind of person you are, right? And that's why anytime we know the guests are coming to our house, we keep everything organized and cleaned up, and presentable. So same should be your classroom. It should not be unorganized. It should not feel like there is a chaos in the classroom. Because when there is chaos or there is unorganization, there is not an environment where children or kids feel like learning. So it's really essential that when you create that environment, students take the ownership of their learning. And that's what we are talking about. That's what we are focusing on. Create a culture where the students feel like it's their responsibility to participate, to be accountable for their own growth. So that's something that motivates them, right? I'll share a very simple example, and then we're going to move on to the importance of cultural benefits. When I was in US, I had this student I was really struggling with. He would not try to even, he would not even try to do any work, even if it's simplest to simple, like going to his level, there was a learning gap. So even if I was giving question at his level, he would still not show any interest. And so it was a struggle because um, he was also causing troubles, because when he's not doing work, he's not trying to do the work, he is a behavior problem. So it reached to a point where I was like, I have to find out the solution. So I asked my colleague, and I observed him in her class, and that was totally different. He was trying, even though he was struggling, but he was still trying. And so I sat with that student, I had a one-on-one conversation, like what is it that he wants that will make him feel do it. And guess what, he was very honest, telling me that you have expectations but you never make me do so. So you know what I mean? Sometimes we have so many expectations in the classroom, but we ourselves don't make it mandatory. Or we lower our expectations thinking this is too much for this particular student. And that's what happened. I lowered my expectation for him because I thought it's too much for him to begin with. But kids want that high expectation for them, no matter what their level is. And that kind of makes them motivated. So next week we targeted, we together set a goal. The student said, okay, this week my goal would be to do the assignments, whether correct or incorrect, but I'm gonna give my best. And so in a week we collected the data and all sort of things. So the reason of this story is that sometimes we have the high expectation, but then we think that he may not be able to do. We just assume without even assessing, without even having involving students in your discussions. That's all about culture for learning, and that's make them more accountable. So this is what the culture of learning that we're going to be focused about, and I will be talking more about how to create the culture of learning. What are the ways that you can create the culture of learning? Because uh, knowing everything but not able to find a solution is gonna be, everything is gonna be in vain. Because a lot of times we start the school with all the expectations. You are expected to do this, you are expected to do that, but when the school year starts, there's so much in our plates that somewhere we lack. And that's where reflection comes. It's really essential that we reflect on what we are doing and we keep on doing what we are doing. Once again, make sure you are say hi, and please, please, please address your questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you. All right, moving to the culture for learning. How can we create them? So what are the ways that you can create the culture of learning? So what are the things that one should take care about to be able to create that culture? And let me tell you, it is not a rocket science. It's super easy. It needs a planning, but once you plan it, it's gonna be super easy to implement. And guess what? You don't have to do much, because once you have planned it, once you have implemented it, your students are gonna show accountability as long as you stay up on your expectations. Because as I said, sometimes we lower our expectations, but the kids want us to set the high expectation. I have so many such example stories I will be telling throughout this session in between, because those are experiences that have gained where I kind of switched to my expectation, but the kid was like, no, let the expectation be the same and let me reach to that level. So that's what our kids want. So what are the ways? I'll be talking about 10 ways to create a culture for learning in your classroom. So starting with the first one, which is a growth mindset versus fixed mindset, something that I was just talking about. Sometimes we assume that the students, level is below average, and we fix our mindset that he can do only this much, even though class goal is to do something here, but we expect him to be here. So when we have fixed our mindset, the growth is also stagnated. So it's really essential that we have our growth mindset where we believe that everybody is gonna do better. Because guess what? Are we born to be good or bad? No, we are not born to be good or bad, right? It's all about learning that takes place. It's all about the situation. It's all about how we treat. So this is the biggest cultural shift that we need to make, especially as educators. Because when you have 25 students in the classroom and you think, oh, these five students, I have tried everything and they are not gonna do anything, and you fix your mindset, guess what? Their growth is fixed. And those are the kids who will be trouble in your classroom, because you have started lowering your expectations. You kind of think, or you have already assumed that they cannot do this, and that's when the other distractions start happening in the classroom. So it's really essential that we have a growth mindset where we believe that every student has the potential to grow, because this is a belief that makes the students motivated. Because if you tell any kids, yes, you can do it, they will try to do it, whether or not they can do it, but that will motivate them to try. But if you start your conversation, you cannot do it, we are subconsciously making that student feel that he could not do it. And that's how, the negativity in the mind, in the student's mind, work pretty, actively, where they start suppressing themselves and thinking that they cannot do it, they cannot do it, they cannot do it. A simple example, a small baby, when he's, he has started crawling or sitting, the next, as parent, we start, teaching them how to walk or how to stand up, right? We don't stop teaching them how to walk thinking, oh no, he cannot, he's a baby, he will fall. We know they fall, right? We all have kids, or we have seen kids around who start walking, they fall, we take all the precautions, they still fall, right? They still fall on the hard floors, they still fall somewhere, but we don't stop them from learning to walk, because we know that's a milestone they have to learn. So that's how, the expectation in the classroom should be. No matter how many times you fall, no matter how many times you fail, but you still get up and do it again, right? So when you give that belief to the students, they're gonna, give it back in terms of, highly motivated, and they will never give up. So that's the first thing, that as an educator, I believe that, the classroom environment should have a growth mindset approach. Not just as an educator, I mean, I teach that to my kids as well. When I was teaching, I would teach my kids, like, have a growth mindset in all of your perspectives. Because when you see everything with a positive mind, you will see the solution. But if you shut your mind with the negative thoughts, you cannot find the solution, because you already accepted that it's not going to work, right? That's the first thing, growth mindset. Second way is to set high expectations. It is really essential, like, when you set high expectation, a lot of time it is being misunderstood as expecting everyone to score A plus. That's not high expectation. Setting high expectation doesn't mean that they all have to rise to the same level, but they all improve skills, sorry, they all improve skills, and they all seek out growth. So if a student started here, another student started here, and if this student grow, may say 2 steps, this student can grow 1 step, right? It's still achievement for that student, right? We all are not same, right? I have 2 kids. My elder one learned how to walk when he was 9 months old. My little one until he was like close to 14 months. But it doesn't matter who reaches the milestone when. What matter is everyone is growing. All the students in your class are improving their skills, whether it's mathematical skill, or it's a language skill, or experimental problem solving, communication, whatever they are working on. If they are showing little growth, that's that's a step towards expectation. So expecting everyone to score A plus, it's something which is impractical. And so when we talk as an educator, when we talk about setting high expectation, it means we are expecting every student to grow, every student to keep learning at their own pace. And that's why the curriculum, everything, teachers should have that freedom, the flexibility, where they feel they should, they feel like, okay, this unit we didn't do, uh, that well. So we need to stop here and redo it before moving to the next unit. So that's setting high expectation. I'm gonna see if there are any questions. Feel free for asking any question. And also let me know where you're logging from. All right, so the next the next way to develop your culture for learning are routines and procedures. Routines and procedures. I have already created some videos on that, and I'm a strong believer of creating certain routines and procedures in the classroom, because that's what sets your tone. That's what sets the tone of the classroom, the environment of the classroom, and it should be done right from the beginning of the school year. The students must know how to enter the classroom. That's a procedure. Student must know what's your exit procedure. Because the most important thing is time management. When you have so many kids, you have so much to do. You have to reach to highly achievers expectation. You also have to focus on struggling students. You have to make sure that they have equal opportunity to interact academically. And then you also have to make sure you are assessing for learning, you're taking their exit tickets, they have the welcome work or the due now. So much, and it's really essential that needs time management. For that, routines and procedures play a huge role. For example, in my classroom, when kids walk in, the first 5 minutes are for the bell work. So in the first 5 minutes, they're walking into their seats, taking out their journals, starting on the work. There's no talk. That's expectation. The first 5 minutes, they cannot talk. I'm not talking because when they're walking in, they're doing their work. I'm also switching from my previous class. I have my data sheet ready, flip for this classroom. I'm checking their homework, if any. I'm also doing a check of their due nows. And there's so much. So in first 5 minutes, I am my target always used to be to check it, to make a check mark or whatever mark in every student's notebook, and it was very easily done because everyone is quiet. I'm moving tables to tables, checking their work, putting my remarks or check mark or smiley stamps or whatever system you have in place. And then after first 5 minutes, we start the class. Same for the exit used to take 3 minutes in my class, where they pack up their stuff, I collect their exit tickets, and they are lined up ready to go to the next class. So when you have routines and procedures in place, that means your students know what are your expectations. So when I say time to exit and I start counting five, they are done. And five counts, they are done. By the end of the, you can say, first break, they are so fast that I just say, all right, time to exit, switching the classroom, and I start counting one, two, three, and by five count, they have packed up their stuff. They have no trash on the table or on the floor. They pick up their trash and they throw it in the trash can, and they are ready to line up. The lineup takes like 15 seconds. So you see how quickly things happen when you have routines and procedures. And the routines and procedures are part of everyone's life, right? We all have certain routines, like what time we wake up, what time we eat our breakfast, our fitness routine, lunch routine, work routine. Some people have like I have this routine in the morning, I do this in the afternoon. One day you don't follow this regular routine and you feel so unorganized or kind of like as if you have not achieved something, because something you have been doing every day, if you don't do one day, you feel like something is missing, right? So same is the routines and procedures in the classroom, and they are really important. Now, routines and procedures, sometimes students may forget after a break. So it's really essential that you teach, you reteach, rehearse, and reinforce. It's really essential you set your expectation high for those routines and procedures. Because if you have a routine where they cannot talk during the exit tickets, guess what? If you allow them talking, then you are violating your own expectation, right? So make sure if it is not allowed, it's not allowed. So that's the third way you can create a really great culture for learning. The next is the curiosity and creativity, right? A lot of time we are so busy teaching any concept the way we think will work better because it makes sense to us, that we forget giving that freedom to our kids. You know, because a problem can have so many ways of finding solution, right? So if you think this is the way to find a solution and you just teach one way, we are suppressing students' creativity, their curiosity. They may have question like, well, I think I can do it this way. So if you don't have a culture where students are allowed to solve problems in any way they want, multiple ways they want, so that will develop their creativity as well as curiosity. Because when you give them that space, this is the problem, let me know how you're going to find the solution. So guess what, they are curious to know what they can do to find the solution. They are curious to know different ways, and that curiosity develops their creativity. The maze examples, right? So many times you have the maze. If you already tell them the answer, they're going to just follow that path, that this is the answer. But if you let them explore, they're going to go different paths and figure out what is the correct path. And guess what, doing that they will have fun, right? Mathematics, right? A lot of times these days, a lot of puzzles are on Facebook where two apples and one orange is equals to 10, this and this. kids. I did one during, I think, Halloween. I did that with the spooky face and pumpkins and all. And my eighth grade, who was struggling with linear equations, they were the fastest. The group that was struggling, I on purpose grouped them together. They won that competition. And the same problem, then I switched to the variables x, y, and all. And they were like, "What is this?" I said, "This is what you have done right now." So sometimes they do not understand the perspective, the reason. They think like, why do you have to do this? A lot of times I get this question, why do I have to do linear equations? Why do we have to do combination? So when you involve them in real life problems or this kind of little fun problems, it makes connection. It makes sense to them. And when it makes sense to them, guess what? They try. Now, next day when I was giving them the same problems with X, Y's, they were able to figure out, okay, X is, they just want to, name it everything. Okay, X is this and Y is this. And then they visualize the problem. It was easier for them to solve. So that's, creating curiosity and creativity in the classroom. So that's a fourth way. The next is the perseverance. A lot of time we see, students don't want to try a problem because they feel that because they don't know they should not try it, or they have been suppressed in the past saying that, oh, this is high level problem, or this is a little difficult problem, or higher order thinking skills or horse and all. They just take it to their mind and they think that they cannot just do it. They just want to, because they feel it's easier to give up than to try. So here it's really essential that we teach our kids that not just the answer or the solution, but the process is also important. When I was teaching math, I would not care if you got answer incorrect, because if a five-step problem, your first three steps are correct or four steps are correct, but last step where maybe last calculation you did incorrect doesn't mean that you don't know the problem, right? The problem is asking you that there are four people in 10 boats, and how many people are there in all the boats. So you did all the things that you know that there are 10 boats, four people, 10 times four. Instead of writing 40, you wrote four. It doesn't mean that you don't know it. So I give them marks for their process. And so we have to teach our kids that process is important, because if we don't teach that in their real life, whenever there's a problem, they're going to try it once, and if they fail, they're going to give up. But if you teach them the process is important, if they fail, they're going to go back and reflect on what went well and what did not go well. So it's really essential that we teach our kids that it's okay. I mean, try as many times, as many ways you can. Just like in math, there are so many ways that a problem could be solved. So our kids should also know that. So that's the fifth way to create a culture for learning. Because if they are stuck, if they're struggling, if they're stuck, they're gonna definitely try finding the solution. Once again, those who are joining us lately, we are talking about creating culture for learning and what are the ways to create culture of learning. So we are on number 6, give students a voice. It's really essential. Sometimes we think that you don't know this, you are too small, or in any of the things or activities we don't take their opinion. But it's really important that we provide that safe environment where students feel safe and courageous enough to ask you question, or express his solution. Maybe what you solve doesn't make sense to him and he has another way. Let him share it, because he's going to add to the classroom. He's going to add that value to the classroom. Because if we don't let them speak, then guess what? Even if a student has a problem or he has a question, a valid question, he would not, he would be, scared of asking that question, because the culture of the classroom is that students cannot, right, give their voice in the classroom. So it's really important that we teach the students art of communicating. Now there are times when there could be disagreements, right? Sometimes we always teach our kids that you cannot talk back to your parents, or you cannot talk back to your teachers. But what if their point is correct, right? So we have to teach them how to communicate their disagreement, right? Because they may not know the right way or the correct way to express themselves or express the disagreement. Maybe they're gonna be very, outrageous, and we would not like that. So sometimes when students are hyper, the teacher or the parents or the elders don't want to listen to them. So maybe teaching them how to communicate their disagreement in a way that the teacher, educator, parents want to listen to you. So that's another thing, that giving students a voice in the classroom is very crucial in creating a culture of class for learning. Because when they are given a voice, they want to learn, they want to ask questions, they have that curiosity, right? And asking question is something that we must teach our kids. In my class, I used to give extra points if they ask a valid and to the point or a different question. I mean, I don't. If you talk about Bloom's taxonomy, I would ask them to ask me question level, application or synthesis or creativity. I mean, I don't expect this kind of question where you say like, what is the problem we are solving? You don't get any points for that. But if you ask a genuine question, which is really, kind of like can develop a conversation in the classroom, they get extra points for that. And it is part of the grading where asking question is must. So that's another way we can create, culture for learning. That's the sixth way. Seventh way, a safe place to fail. It's really essential that, as I was talking about, to let our kids know that it's okay to fail. It's not okay to not attempt or not to try or to give up. A lot of times when kids fail, there is so much pressure from the teacher, from the parents, and all this negativity. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. We are providing everything you want, and this is what you give us a 10. So we really need to understand that that's not how we should look at a student. That we are providing things, so you should give us good result. It's really essential that we understand their perspective or their point. Oops, I'm sorry, my mistake. So it's really essential that the kids understand that it's okay to fail, and help them find out where did they do that mistake that they are failing. Is it that they are not trying enough? Is it that the kind of practice they need is not enough? Or is it that they're doing everything but they're still struggling? That means they need some additional resources. They may need how to plan or a different strategy or maybe a different way or different approach to teach them. Because not, as I said, not all kids are same, right? Some may, when you are explaining something, we all have that one group of bubble kids who will be like, oh, I already understood it. And then you will have that one group of kids who will not get you even explaining 3 4 times. And so we teacher also have to be patient to teach them, right? Because when they are comfortable that they know that if they fail they will still be respected, and the class environment is that nobody's going to make fun of them just because they don't know, right? So that makes them comfortable enough to keep trying. They are not scared of failing 5 times or 10 times, and that's something our kids need in their real life also. Because in real life there will be so many failures, right? I had so many failures in terms of trying something or designing something, and I was like, I don't like this, or logo for yourself, or there's so many things that you try, right? But you don't give up. So if that attitude is developed in the classroom, it's going to be a lifelong learning and a good life for the kids. So we need to make sure that our classrooms are a safe place to fail and to keep learning. Next is eight. Eight is lead by an example. A lot of time we expect students to be respectful, we expect them to be on time, we expect them to do their work. We as teachers need to be examples. So when I say that, if we are late, we should have the courage to say or apologize. If we are not on top of our planning, we should be ready to accept that, right? In other sense, if we are planning something, how to set the goals, teach that to the goals, teach that goals to the students, how to set the goals, because they definitely need that in their real life, right? Teach them how to plan, right? I mean, sometimes we think that planning takes place when you are already in your career, but I feel like planning starts the moment you are a student, right? You plan, okay, I have 10 units to do, I have exams maybe after 3 days, and how I can do those 10 units in the remaining 3 days, plus having some time for reviewing. So that needs a planning. So maybe sit with them and plan before the big test or exams. So that will help them learn the plan, the how to set the goals or how to plan your work. And students need to know all this, because as we all know, we need that in our later life. Someone well said that world is changed by examples and not opinions, right? So be an example, and students learn that, and I feel that they respect more when you are an example for them, when they see you as, whatever expectations you have from them, you are following themselves yourselves. So that's an example. The next one is feedback. Very important that the feedback is effective. When I say effective, it has to be specific, it has to be timely, and it has to be positive. When I say specific, instead of saying, "Oh, good job, Johnny," that's not specific. You just appreciate it, Johnny, but for what? So there's no specification. So, "Oh, I see Johnny's doing his bell work silently in his assigned seat. That's a great job, following expectations." Now you are specific. Timely. If Johnny did this expectation yesterday and you wanna appreciate that today, it's not timely. You have to appreciate when that was happening right at that moment. And last is positive. Even if you think that something is not happening the way it should, how to frame that negative feedback into positive feedback. So for example, Johnny is doing everything, he's silently on his he's silently doing his work, but he's not in his assigned seat. He just thought, like, let me sit with my bestie today. So how to frame this feedback in a way that is positive and corrective. So if I have to say, I would say, I see Johnny is doing his work silently. He is not talking to anyone, and I see he's completely into his work. Uh, but if he's in a science seat, that's gonna add, or that's gonna complete the expectation. Guess what? You don't have to say anything after that. That kid is gonna get up himself and go to his assigned seat. And I'm saying that because I have already tried this several times with my students. A lot of time when you tell them not to do something, they're gonna do it. So start with something positive. And the reason it is really essential that you use a lot of effective feedback in your classroom, because if the kids don't know how they are performing, they would not be seeking out growth, because they'll be like, "Oh, well, I don't know if I'm doing good or bad, the teacher doesn't tell me." So they will be used to it, not expecting feedback, which is not okay. Because when you provide feedback, they're able to track themselves whether they're following expectations or not, or they're able to track themselves if they are doing any problem or math correctly. So it's really essential that when you word your feedback, carefully make sure that it is very specific, timely. Because if you keep on saying, "Well done, so and so, great job, so and so," I mean, the class doesn't know for what reason are you telling them. But when you tell them, so for example, if a student is not following my expectation, and I want to address that, I'm gonna find someone who is following, and I'm gonna take his name. I'm gonna give him feedback saying, "Good job, Rihanna, I see you're doing your work, I see you are interacting with your shoulder partner, that is expectation, and I also see you are trying to show your work, because I don't see that student is doing work, so I'm addressing here." So if that student is listening, definitely he's listening. He's going to pretend that he's not listening, but he's going to try to get back to the task, because he knows that this is how I do. That I'll pick one or two students who are doing all expectations to address him what he's supposed to be doing. So that's how feedback could be effective. So it's really essential. Find more and more opportunities to feedback. Make a target. I used to make targets in my classroom that out of 25 students, I want to make sure that I use 20 students to give them positive tickets. We had positive ticket system, and I was able to do that very easily because I had that planning. All right. Last but not the least, celebrate the learning, not just the grade. A lot of time when it's a report day, or you are passing out the assessment results, we make the class clap for the top student who scored so and so, but we forget that a little growth is also part of celebration. So don't just celebrate grades, celebrate accomplishments, right? It may be a little small, but when you celebrate those accomplishments, the student is highly motivated. He thinks that he is important in this class, no matter how much growth he's showing, right? So the students who struggle the most show the most improvement. For example, you may have a student who has been struggling. He you took the test, out of 20 he scored maybe 2. Next time he scored 10, right? So imagine from 2 to 10, that's a huge improvement for that student, even though 10 is still 50%, right? But that's an improvement for that student. If you see the percentage growth, you will always find the low achievers have highest percent of improvement compared to the high achievers, because high achievers are already in that range, right? It's 18 to 20, if the 20 is the maximum mark. So it's really essential that we learn, we find ways to celebrate. And again, it doesn't have to be on the day of the report card. It has to be throughout the school year. Throughout the school year, find opportunities to celebrate those accomplishments. You find a student, who was never staying in his assigned seat and was a struggle, but now he's staying. Right? It's been a week. Tell them, I see so and so has been staying in his assigned seat, trying to do his work, and that's an accomplishment. So say good job, Johnny. So everybody's gonna say good job, Johnny. Keep it up, and that kind of makes them feel motivated. They feel like, oh, I'm doing something good, because those students are the one who rarely get positive feedbacks, who rarely get a good job kind of statements, right? So when they get it, they feel that energy, they feel that motivation, inspiration, a new beginning, and they do it, right? So these were the 10 ways that you can do, um, a change. You can bring a change in your classroom, and you can bring that difference in everyone's life. So it's really, if you are thinking of creating a culture for your learning, now don't panic and you wanna like, oh, I wanna start all these 10 together. Find out what is missing in your classroom, or what is going to work the most in your classroom. Maybe pick two, start with two for 2 weeks. Then when you are into those two, add two more the next week, then two more the next week. This way, I'm pretty sure that you will be able to um, bring that difference in the classroom. And I'm pretty sure the students are going to feel the difference. They're going to feel a different energy in the classroom. So if you are in, you can follow us on LinkedIn, and I don't see any question yet, but if there is any question, this is the right time to ask. I would be more than happy. If you wanna send me question later, you can follow me on LinkedIn, at Edoxa, that's the consultancy, or you can follow me at Tulika Samuel. If you're on Facebook, I'm with my maiden name, Tulika Tak. You can follow me there. And I also have a YouTube channel in the name of the consultancy, that is Edoxa. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now, or you can also email me, or you can message me on LinkedIn or Facebook. Also, if you want to share your email address, you can share your email address to know about the classroom culture. I can share the resources that I have for classroom culture. I can also give you a copy of all these 10, plus additional 2, about the creating a culture for learning. So feel free to share your email addresses, and I would be more than happy to provide you the resources at your email address. I hope everyone enjoyed this. This is my second live video. I'm still learning. As I said, learning never ends. And the first one went pretty good. Not a lot of public. That's okay. I still want to share, because everyone starts somewhere. And I think Restream is working pretty fine with the 3 platforms. So I can think of buying in future uh, live shows if it works well every time. And once again, you can share your email address, and I can share the resources with you. I'm also an education influence, so I also update some articles and blogs there. You can also see those blogs there. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Please, please, please don't forget to share your email address or ask your questions, and I'll be more than happy to help you. It was great being here. I really want to thank you for your time. And if you want to know more about anything related to education, classroom procedures, routines, and the framework that I was talking about, teaching, learning, observation, you can also um, reach me out for that. It's a really great framework. It will help you to specifically help the teachers based on their needs. And so, thank you, everyone. Hope you all have a great weekend. See you next week. Till then, bye bye. All right, I'm ending the stream.